ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Registered Ranching Podcast. Tucker Brown, Willie Wardle, back in the studio behind Mitchell's, what does he call it?
Saddle Shop or
Mitchell's
Cowboy Mercantile.
Cowboy Mercantile, right at the square, Throckmorton, Texas, the big city. Yeah, if you haven't been to the Mercantile here, Mitchell's Mercantile,
You're missing out on a landmark.
It is cool. It is so cool.
It might be my favorite place within the city limit. It is
For good reason.
Yeah.
For good reason. Hey, what do they got that you don't need in there?
Yeah, they got everything.
What do they not have that you do need?
Food, but there's an also
They do have
across
food.
the street.
They do have food.
What food do they have?
They got Dots pretzels. They got coffee. They got some peanuts. They got some ropes, some leather, toys,
They do have toys.
everything you need.
But OC's is right next door.
One thing they don't have,
ranch fuel.
that's ranch fuel. They don't have real cowboy energy. That's the only thing they're missing.
I cheated. I already had mine open.
You opened it up.
Sorry.
That's the only thing they're missing. Hey, Wowza on the sale. Dude, the best sale we've ever had.
Big money.
And, yeah, strong cattle market. Market it right. Have good product. Turns out they sell well.
Honestly, I don't think it has anything to do with the market.
No?
I think it has to do with one decision that is a factor that has changed since about
Ranch
last
fuel?
year. No, the sales were going really good before the ranch fuel, but not that far before.
You think it was because of Willie Wardle?
I mean, you're the one that said it. You said it.
Whatever.
Man, we're selling a lot of bulls.
No, dude, that sale averaged, what do we sell? 230 bulls, averaged over $12,000. Angus almost averaged 16,000.
Yeah, 15.
Red averaged almost 10.8. Like, crazy. Yeah, thanks to everybody who came out. And shout out to those who said they listened to the podcast.
Yeah,
That was cool.
that was cool.
A lot of folks bought some Registered Ranching merch.
Yeah, our green hoodies are almost gone, so
Yeah.
if you want a green hoodie, you better
Better hustle.
hustle. We still have some of these black caps.
Better hustle. But hey, we have a treat today.
A
We have a treat today. This is like when when you go back for you're full, and you go back for seconds because you need more.
Mm.
That's what this podcast is.
It's kind of like when you had your first ranch fuel in the morning, and like you want to have another one, but you don't want to risk having a heart attack because of the caffeine. So now it's like 3-4
It's your
o'clock, and you
nightmare.
can have another ranch fuel. So this is like that second ranch fuel. It just hit.
It is. This is like the second ranch fuel. This is the first time for us to, besides Donald Brown, besides old Pops, this is the first time for us to bring back a guest. And it is our guest that has had the most listens.
Celebrity.
Was it the second episode? Third.
It was
Second.
second. Wade Fisher,
Then this one.
Ranch Living Timmy.
So if you will join me in welcome back for the second time to the Registered Ranching Podcast, Ranch Living Timmy, otherwise known as
Dum
Rogers.
Da-da-dum. 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 Dum.
Cracking ranch fuel too?
Cracking one, baby.
Come on.
go time.
Dude, welcome back.
Yeah, second date, you might.
Second
might
date?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know who's on the date with who.
Oh, you know.
I don't know who's dating who, but we're here.
You
boys.
get both of
But
us.
we're here.
You get both.
Hey, use discount code Tucker Brown. Get you some ranch fuel online.
Lower that
Save you
MSRP.
15%, dude. Hey, you like that orange cream?
I do like the orange cream. You did?
I thought you
So
might.
it's
I
like-
have the little can, 150 calories, not calories, 150
Milligrams.
milligrams of
150
calves.
cows.
Jeez.
150 cows. That'd be all right.
Pretty good.
10 calories in mine, 150 grams of caffeine, that real cowboy energy.
Really good.
It's healthy stuff, man. People, anytime you say, that's an energy drink, I'm like, dude, so is coffee. You're pounding it all day.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. Anyway, enough about ranch fuel. Thanks, ranch fuel. Use the discount code Tucker Brown online. But yeah, dude, welcome back. The studio's a little different than the last time you were here.
Y'all look like you've been around a while.
Yeah, I
Do
built
we?
this
Now,
by
hey.
hand.
In, what did it say, the 14th? In 6 days, it will officially have been a year
Have we been in here?
Podcast.
for the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did, or the first one, had we left yet?
No.
You were still here.
I think we had taken a load,
Yep.
and then we came
I
back.
think that's correct.
Sounds right.
Been doing it a year.
Yeah.
Good for y'all.
Pod's almost been going a year. Episode 29.
29.
Pretty good episodes in there, too.
Yeah, dude.
A lot of good stuff.
You been listening?
I have, yeah.
What's been some of your favorites?
Yeah, what have been some of your favorites?
Oh, now I'm testing you. See if he's lying
I think
or not.
my probably all-time favorite thing,
Was the one with
that-
Tyler Rogers.
well, that's a given.
Well.
But probably when I didn't know Cole Snyder met his wife at a roller derby.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
after a roller derby.
After she had won one.
I rewound that. I knew what he said, but I rewound it just to hear it again because I thought it was funny. And knowing Cole, I was surprised. That's why I rewound it, but then I wasn't because I thought, that fits like a
makes
glove.
sense.
Now, yeah.
Yeah, fits him like a glove.
He's had a crazy past couple weeks. He went out there with Dale, and they went over to Derek Begay's he was talking, because he played the music Tuesday night, and he was telling me and Tucker's cousin, Lane?
Who? Lane?
Streetback.
Lane?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was him, and
they'd
then,
gone to Arizona and roped some wild cattle.
yeah, it was pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, he sent me a Snapchat. He was shooting all their horses, saying he was going out there. And I tried calling him like 5 times.
Yeah, there's nothing out there.
Well, I was watching their Snapchat stories to see when they were headed back, and that sucker, I guess his callback button doesn't work on his phone. Because
Call him out. You hear
I
that,
was
Cole?
I was just wanting to hear some, cowboy stories.
You're just trying to be a good friend.
And yeah, callback button never worked. Then I saw him at the sale, and he's like, "Man, I'll see you tonight." Didn't see him.
What a
Wow.
rascal.
I mean,
We should call him. I wish there was a way we could call him
Call
and put
him
him on the
live.
podcast. Like, hey,
kind of a dirtbag, a little bit.
I'm going to go ahead and say it.
We probably could make it. But so Cole was one of your favorite episodes?
Cole was good. Let's see.
21, I think. Episode.
You've watched him.
I'm trying to think. Lanham.
You're lying.
Lanham surprised me.
Yeah. He's good at it.
And I noticed something about him.
Uh-oh, what?
I think he enjoyed it.
You think so?
I think he did.
You think he liked it?
I think
I think
he
he
did too.
enjoyed it. And I know he's not going to want anybody to know that. His was good. Miles.
Yeah.
Miles was good,
Miles
wasn't
was
That was
last one you did, wasn't it?
surprisingly good.
Miles knocked it out of the park. That was really good.
I mean, anytime you have somebody that, like Lanham and Miles, who have had a lot of success, like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well,
So, and then they're able to talk about it. Like those are two different skills, and they're able to do it. It's pretty impressive.
I've been around quite a few guys that can make a good horse, but sometimes I think they all mean well, but I'll ask them like, "Hey, how do you get a horse to do this?" And they're like, "Well, you just got to feel it, stay in the saddle." It's like, okay, well, I can do that, but
I ain't feeling
seems
it.
like they get worse the more I'm in the saddle. But then when you ask a guy like Lanham or Miles, that's it seems like it's a different level, they can. There's a few times, I don't want to brag on Lanham too much, but
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
he's already got a big enough head as it is. But when I was here in Throckmorton, there's a few times I'd ask him like, "Hey, how do I get this horse to do this?" And he'd just, he'd tell you right then, and he'd tell you, put your foot here, and then when to move, when to relax, when to let them have their head. So those guys, they just it seems like really good guys that are really good with a horse are extremely good communicators. It seems like, I don't know what their wives would say, but it just seems like they can simply put things in simple terms,
Yeah, and they killed it. Yeah, they did good.
Yeah, Miles was good. Lanham was good. I'm trying to think who else.
Lanham thought I was blowing smoke up them about.
Justin McKee's was one of my
Yeah,
favorites.
Justin
I
McKee was a good
haven't
one.
listened to that one yet.
That's a good one.
I need to.
The last 20 minutes, he's a preacher on the side. Not only a legendary rodeo announcer, but he's a preacher as well. And it was the last 20 minutes, man.
Brought some heat, huh?
Bro.
Mhm.
It was, yeah. He was preaching.
Yeah, it was good.
He was sharing the truth.
Yeah, Lanham came up to me today and said that, I think you were just telling Miles stuff just to make him, because you want him to like you. Like, that's why you're complimenting our podcast.
Well, that's what you told me.
Well, I told Lanham, I was like, Lanham, like, I'm not trying to be mean, but in, like, all honesty, if Miles doesn't like me, it doesn't really affect my life at all. So, like, why would I say that? It's like, it's the same thing with you. Like, why would I tell you that I thought that was cool? Like, if you don't like me, like, I'm not trying to get you to like me. I only see Miles, like, twice a year. What benefit do I have? Like, I just thought it was freaking good.
They both been asking, hey, how many does Lanham have? Like Miles, he'll ask, how many listens does Lanham's have?
Oh, they're competing.
Yeah, now Lanham's like, is his doing okay? Is his getting?
Do they know? Do they know they're competing against each other, or is it?
I hadn't told them.
Miles wants to start a podcast.
I know. I think it'd be
Lanham do.
good.
I think they should.
I think
they should.
the hardest part about them having a podcast is getting Lanham on board.
Oh yeah,
Full send.
yeah, it would be. Well, enough about them.
Yeah.
More about you.
Shoot.
Give us the update. Last time we talked, you were heading west. Last time we talked on here.
Did you find what you're looking for?
2 hours west. What?
Did you find what you're looking for out west? Like the Great Migration in 1849?
Run into some Comanche and some buffalo on the trail.
Let's give the big overview. If you haven't listened to Tyler's episode back in episode 2, yeah, rewind. Tyler Rogers, class act, stud basketball player. Only person to beat him one-on-one was me. Then
We're telling fibs now, more than one in that sentence.
2 truths and a lie.
Yeah.
Played basketball at Lubbock Christian University. Graduated, then went to TCU Ranch Management. Went to work out in New Mexico, and then South Texas.
New Mexico.
R.A. Brown Ranch, and now headed out west.
Yep.
Staying out there around Jayton area, cowboying. In all of that story, married your high school sweetheart.
High school, yeah.
Married your high school sweetheart. Got 2 little ones.
Yep, 2 youngsters, 5 and 3.
But you got a lot of what we talked about before was just the cool story that I get asked so much on social media of, I'm not in it, how can I get in it?
Yeah.
And you did.
Yeah, that was, if I remember right, that was kind of the main point of the first
hour.
Yeah, but it took a little bit of a turn, I guess, as it should. Mallory's much more interesting than that story is.
Kind of a cool story, you know.
Yeah. I think she faked it. No, she didn't. Yeah, we were here for, I guess, a year, or left a year ago. We've been gone. And we moved out to a place in between Post and Jayton. And it's kind of a smaller deal, and worked for an awesome family that they own that place, and they kind of just let me run it like it's mine, and I try to communicate with them when there's bigger things going on, but other than that, I just kind of try to stay out of they've got a whole lot more important things going on than my problems, so it's good. Yeah, Mallory is homeschooling the kids, so I get a call about 9:30 every morning. Daddy, come pick me up. I'm done with school. I say, well, you dressed? Yes, sir. I said, okay, be there. So, yeah, it's...
How old's McCray now?
5.
Crazy.
5 and...
Crazy.
Turned 5 in November. Roan turned 3 in November. Yeah. Yeah, it's... we like that. Valentine's Day.
November?
Yeah. I told him, I was like, man, if we have another, we're going to have to switch it up. Celebrating Valentine's too much.
I've never celebrated Valentine's Day.
Good.
You might.
It's kind of a lousy holiday, really.
Yeah, what's so
Carly's favorite
special
one.
about it?
It's Carly's favorite holiday, she says. It's not even a holiday.
Yeah, it's not. It's made up.
I didn't do very good this year.
You didn't?
No.
I butchered my last date, but I saved it.
Your last date? Oh.
No, I went this past
Willie's
Saturday.
Love Life. Welcome to a new segment.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of a funny story. So you know how like I kind of get like lose track of time.
Yeah.
I do that more than once on
When
occasion.
you're sitting across from a beautiful woman, it'll happen.
Well,
Understandable.
my grandparents were in town. They were in Fort Worth, so my little brother was at Texas Tech. He had a soccer game, but here down in Texas, they don't mess around with them soccer sports. So
No,
they only have
it's not
club,
a sport,
club
really.
teams. Yeah, it's a club sport, which is odd. I agree. It should be like that. Anyways, get down there. My brother's like, hey, man, the game's canceled. It's like, well, I'm already down here. My grandparents are here. And I already agreed with this girl that I was going to go on a date with her. And
Do we want to say her name?
Margaret Burke.
Okay, because I don't think you should refer to her as this girl.
Well, this girl is an amazing individual.
Trying to help you out here.
Listen to him getting the brownie points.
Yeah, thanks. Amazing. No, she is. Really cool girl.
Tell us more before you continue the story.
About Margaret?
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to know?
You know what? I think I called her Maggie one time.
Her name is Maggie, but I like
Okay,
calling her
well, I
Margaret.
was starting to feel
I'm on
bad.
official. I'm on the official name basis.
Tell us about old Mags.
Old
Magpie.
Mags. She is an Oklahoma State University graduate. She graduated college, so that's a plus. She breakaway ropes, barrel races.
Who wouldn't graduate college?
Especially from there.
Willie.
Yeah, I didn't graduate college
Well, you probably would have from Oklahoma.
Oklahoma State.
from Oklahoma State. Anyways, so yes, she now lives in Fort Worth area.
Mm.
She's employed by the Cowboy channel.
Never
So
heard of her. Is it as big as this podcast?
And it's a little smaller deal.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like no
It's
one's
a little small thing in the back of a saddle shop.
Mhm.
What channel is?
an old auction block. And no, she's really cool. Go getter. Works hard. Really pretty.
So what'd you do on the date?
So going back to the date now, we met up with my grandparents and my dad because I wanted to see him. I hadn't seen my grandparents in maybe 3 years. This set, 3 years. And showed them around Fort Worth, and then she showed us around her offices around there. Anyways, like long story short, plan was that we were going to go hang out with my dad, and my grandparents, and then her and I were going to go and head off when they start heading to Lubbock and go and do our own deal.
So not meeting the family.
No, we were going to meet the family. She wanted
Oh,
to. She wanted to.
wow.
Lex.
Yeah. She wanted.
Okay.
We've been talking for about a month now. It's getting pretty serious. We're dating now, so I'd say it's pretty serious. And
Oh.
that's right. I'm out here.
Dang, son.
I don't want to flex. But anyways, then we were supposed to go to this little arcade and everything. And I feel awful about this, like not trying to make light of the situation. But I was like, hey, we should go to Fenolio Boots and the stockyards. Like, go look at some cool boots. And I like the guys there. They're really cool dudes if you haven't checked them out. They're not a sponsor or anything. They're just our friends.
Did you drop the? I know some people over there. Line make her think you're.
She's already been
Big
over
Mo.
there before. She's not
I
really
said, yeah,
fake.
I
She's
know
like
some-
hanging out with like Kid Rock or like I can't impress her by doing that. Like she knows popular famous people.
Oh man.
She doesn't know Tyler Rogers though. I know her.
Dang right. Yeah, she
But-
does. We met.
Son of a gun. Anyways, I got caught up in a little bit of time. Like she was like, yeah, like first hour was really fun and all, but I lost track of time. Didn't realize it was 8:30 by the time we were about to leave. And
At the boot shop.
she was giving me the look, and I didn't notice it, and she was pretty upset, rightfully so. And like I tried to apologize, and I felt horrible. And then we tried going to the arcade, and everyone and their grandma was there. And I was like, "Son of a gun, this is not looking good." She's like, "Well, like there's this axe place right next door. Let's try that." And like she was kind of mad at this point, rightfully so. We go to the axe
This
thing.
first month is
This was before we were dating.
okay.
This was the
Gotcha.
third date, fourth date. And we get to the axe place, and it's this long-haired hippie dude, and he's like, man, I'm sorry. It's going to be like an hour wait for the line. I'm like, this is the end. Like, this girl's never going to talk to me again. And she did. She came to the sale. She did a couple deals with some people there. And she decided to give me a second chance. So I better make sure I don't blow it because she's pretty cool. Anyways, that's my love life. Let's get back
when
to
you introduced us, I almost said, Willie, she is way prettier than you said she was.
Oh, it's a good thing you didn't do that.
I almost did, but I'm glad I didn't.
I'm making it out like she's like, rightfully so. Like, if you make anyone wait 3 hours, like, I'd be mad. But, like, she's super easygoing, super chill. Like,
I'm mad
you couldn't ask
hearing
for a
it.
cooler person. You couldn't ask for a cooler person.
Good for you, Willie. Willie Wardle.
This segment brought to you by Cedars. Set your cows up to breed. Wouldn't that be funny?
I'm leaving it in.
Oh, man.
You said it.
Oh, that would.
Are we cutting that out or are we leaving
Willie's
it in?
Love Life brought to you by Cedars.
Cedars. Pronounced Cidrs.
That is funny. That's a good one.
Yeah, thanks, man. Speaking of segment,
I thought you were going straight into something. I was like, man,
Like,
here we go.
he's getting into it.
Yeah, but anyway, speaking of segment, I have a segment for you.
Let me hear it.
This is called the hot seat. Unfortunately, you're not wearing ag gear.
you're wearing corduroy.
If you were wearing ag gear, that seat would not be so hot. Ag gear keeps you cool. Use code discount. Use code Tucker Brown for a discount on all ag gear products. That's why I wear it all the time.
How much is the discount?
Pretty good discount.
15%.
Yeah, 15%.
Yeah, but it's a shame that you're not wearing ag gear because the seat wouldn't be hot.
Yeah,
so
you're
you're going to start
sweating.
feeling the heat. We have some questions from the audience,
Let's hear it.
and you got to answer them.
You have to. There's no other option.
Who's your favorite country artist?
Florida Georgia line.
Are we going off of song or looks?
Question is, favorite country artist?
Do both.
Both?
Yeah.
Well, I'd say I probably listen to Cody Johnson consistently. Can't
So
go wrong.
is that off looks or off?
I do like a little Keith Whitley,
Yeah.
throwing it back a little bit. Looks, Carrie Underwood. Easy.
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 No question.
Even my wife, she's like, man, Carrie Underwood's a smoke show. Agreed.
Tucker, share the story about Riley Green.
I don't remember.
How you showed your wife about Riley Green.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Oh, you were like talking about Riley Green. She was like, "Oh my goodness, why is his arm so big?"
Oh, she was, dude. Yeah, I'm not gonna show her anymore. I can't
I'm
show
not
her-
gonna lie.
Show me again?
Yeah, like I can't show her Riley Green. That mustache is way too. She's never liked a mustache, and she sees him in one. Is like, oh, I like his mustache.
You know, that's a shame because you Browns grow some good mustaches.
I
I think I'm
can't.
gonna have to try it now.
I'm the opposite of Riley Green. I can't. I look like a scary person when I try to grow a mustache and I have twig arms.
You should do it. Here's the next question.
Okay.
POV. You're about to load some yearlings on a trailer out of a wheat field. Not sure if you're going to get it done. What song do you play to make it get done?
Life's Been Good by, oh gosh. Life's Been Good or Money for Nothing.
Money
Ooh,
for Nothing. I don't remember.
But
you
just the
playing
intro.
that one. I remember you playing Life's Been Good.
Life's Been Good. It's
Classic.
a go-to. Green River, any Creedence Clearwater Revival. That goes good with a cow.
What's your opinion on Big Plug the X, like Texas? That
Big
came
X
in.
the plug.
Big X
Oh.
the plug.
Yeah, that was
That
a
is a good one.
consistent.
That was a consistent jam for
That's a
you,
good jam.
Texas.
We would. That was my son would call it a bop.
Like a bop.
That is a consistent
That's right.
bop, and still to this day continues to be one.
Yes, sir.
How has the Tucker Brown himself had the biggest impact on you?
And why is he your hero?
I didn't write this question.
Probably lowered my IQ a little bit.
Lowered your standards.
Yeah, yeah. Just it's like if you grow up in a small town, certain girls might be a 8, and then you go to college and that girl's like a 4. You hang around the ranch and you're only around Tucker, and it's like, man, this he's pretty smart. And then you get out in the real world and you're like, wow,
Wow.
That was a dig. That was a dig.
this cat.
Next question.
And we're off of the congratulations.
Anyway,
You
cut that.
the segment's over.
This question from Ag Gear themselves.
Oh,
Okay.
why are you not wearing ag gear?
Why are you not?
Sorry, boys.
Who wins in a one-on-one, Tucker or Tyler?
Oh. I've seen
At
Tyler
what
mad
point?
before.
At each of our prime.
I don't know. The question is, who wins in a one-on-one?
Each of our prime, going me all day.
Yeah, you eat my lunch.
Right now, you'd
You eat
probably
my lunch.
win.
Dude, no.
Are we talking basketball or like
There's
this
a-
fight?
Basketball.
That makes more sense.
There is a goal at the ranch that we're at now, and I got off. There's a flat ball, and I was riding by it, moving some cows around, and I saw that ball, and I was like, you know what? See if I can still dunk. And I had my leggings on, my spurs were on, heavy boots. I got off, I grabbed that ball, and I tried to dunk. And it hurt so bad. And I was not anywhere close. It really kind of made me sad. I got a little bit sad.
That is sad.
I thought you guys were talking about fighting.
No.
Oh, one-on-one fighting?
Yeah, I lose that too. I'm not sure what I win against Tyler, but that list is a whole lot shorter than
No, I hadn't really been in many fights.
You're a pretty good
just like
roper,
basketball
Tucker.
fights where you act like you're going to fight.
Well, I've been in some tussles.
Some tussles.
Like-
What you call it, basketball tussle.
Well, like tempers are flaring in practice, and you're like in that moment you hate each other, but you're buddies, and you're just wrestling around.
Do you remember
get
when
each
we
other in
came
a
to the
headlock.
ranch and they tried fighting the rodeo time Tyler Rogers?
Oh yeah.
And you thought they were talking about, I couldn't tell because I knew you before then, but I could, like, watching your face, I was like, I can't tell if he's getting mad or if he's just confused, or maybe a combination of both. But I thought you were about
Oh,
to.
when Dale
yeah,
came and
remember
they
that?
did a fake fight on the YouTube.
Yeah, because I showed up. I think it was on
You
a
gotta set the
weekend.
stage. Yeah, you got to set the
Yeah.
stage
Yeah, it was. I had only been there probably 3 months.
at the ranch here.
Yeah, and I had a couple of horses, young horses, and usually when you start at a ranch, if they have a good horse program and they provide you a string of horses, you don't keep your own, And so, but Miss Kelly was really good to me. They said you can keep them for a year or until you get them sold.
Your horses.
Yeah, mine. And they were young, so I thought that'll be fine. I'll just get them going and get rid of them, And so I get up there on a weekend, Saturday or something, and I'm going to catch horses. Well, the whole Brisbee crew was out there. And at first, I didn't know who it was, and I didn't know you were there. And I just thought, who are these people kind of walking around? Because I didn't see Donald.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see any of our crew. And so I was kind of poking over my head, like looking over the fence. Well, then I see Dale. And so I just I was like, oh, they're, I saw cameras and everything. Well, then Tucker, you waved me over. And they're buying a bull. So anyways, Dale starts saying, I think he's saying Ty or Tyler. I don't remember. I think maybe Tyler. I don't know. But he said, Ty, get that gate. And I hadn't met Dale at this point. And I was
What are the odds this other kid has the same
Yep,
exact
I was
name as
like-
you?
okay. It's like, yeah.
Why are you yelling at me?
I was like, yeah. I was the closest to the gate, and I didn't know anybody other,
Didn't know another intern
because
was
people
named Ty.
call me Ty too.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get it. It's like,
Calm
I've been
down.
around. I'll get the gate. I know what we're doing. Well, then he says, hurry up, Ty. And I'm like, this son of a gun, and like I just said, I'm not a big fighter, but I was like, this son of a gun.
He's asking for it.
Like I thought, I had never met Dale. I thought he's a pretty good guy, but no, this dude's a douchebag, Well, then I'm like getting frustrated, and it takes a lot for me to
The worst
even
part
really
is
say
Dale-
anything. I'm usually like the guy that's like, it'll blow over, no big deal.
Uh-huh.
Well, then we load the bull, and I go put him in the front cut, and then I turn around. Well, the Ty that Dale's talking to closed the gates on me. So, if that bull turned back and hit the gate that I was closing, I'm stuck.
You'd been in trouble.
And so now I'm like, these jack wagons,
Yeah.
Well, then Ty opens the gate and lets me out. Like, he had it pinned and everything. And then I step out, and I'm, like, looking at Ty, like, seriously? And Dale comes up, and he's walking up. He's like, Ty, can you hurry up? And I was like, this is not going to end well. I'm, like, getting mad, I never met this guy,
Yeah.
He's riding me already. And then he's like, I think it was like Labor. I don't know what it was, a 4th of July or something. And he's like, you think 4th of July, you just don't have to work? And I was like, in my head, I was like, it's my weekend off. Who is this guy? Well, then he comes up to their Ty Rogers, and is talking to him. And now I'm just confused that he's talking to another Ty Rogers.
Yeah.
And so then I kind of think, well, the joke's on me, because what are the odds there's another Ty Rogers? And then, we get out of the pens, and then they start wrestling around. Well, then
You're just even more confused.
I guess their crew didn't know it was a
Their crew
joke
didn't know.
either.
Just the guys on it was just me, Donnie,
cameras
and
and
Jordan Neal.
And
Yeah.
I was just like kind of standing there. I was like, these idiots, let them fight. I don't care. It's not my deal. I was just kind of sitting there watching. And then you came over, you looked at me like, Tyler, can you help me? So I just went and grabbed their hat and glasses, because I was like,
Let them go.
I'd hate
Let
to
'em-
get my tail whooped and then I got a broke pair of glasses,
Yeah.
And so I'm just holding their hat and their glasses, waiting for them to finish. And anyways, then they all start laughing. And then I realized the joke was on everybody else and not me at all.
This guy just happened to have the same name as you.
And so it was what are the odds?
Literally. And nobody knew that you felt like you were being pranked.
Yeah, I don't know if
Which
they
is like
do
the best
still.
Yeah. I was filming.
Yeah, the joke was, it was not on me, but it definitely was.
Which I never even thought about it until when you got close in the trailer, and I noticed you were visibly because I came over a couple times just hanging out with Tucker, so I met you and hung out a couple times, and it never even crossed my mind oh, this could be a possible problem. And luckily you weren't.
But it
you had a
wasn't.
pretty long. It wasn't, because you were just a cool dude. But
It takes a lot for me to get.
I looked over and saw your face, and I was like, oh, we did not see this one coming. This might turn into a real video.
That's a good story.
Yeah, I was pretty. It took me a second to wind down.
I remember asking you for help. Thankfully, Dale told me. I am glad. He's like, hey, we're going to have a fake fight, just so you know. And he's like, just let it go a little bit and then get in and try to split us up. And, I was trying to do my best to act like I was scared.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Tyler, help me split them.
Yeah.
Well, I just remember during the fight, first of all, I was like, I don't let him go. But then my second thought was, I hope this Ty kid kicks his tail. You lucky son of a gun. Because at that point, I knew it wasn't intended for me.
Yeah.
But I was still wild up.
Yeah, still mad.
Wound
Still
up
mad in the
enough.
moment.
Yeah.
You know what?
This son of a gun, this douchebag needs his teeth kicked in.
You were probably the best actor there, because I remember I was like, guys, stop fighting. It's all right, obviously this is fake.
Yeah.
Not ruined it. But golly, what a story.
I was just, once I found out it was a joke, I was impressed that they,
Fought that hard?
well, I mean, they didn't have to do it on the caliche.
Yeah, and they did.
They could have done it in the pins. I
There
mean,
was
it's-
blood. They had.
They went after it.
They tussled.
I was
They're all in.
kind of impressed. I mean, they sold it for sure.
Speaking of the tussle, you were talking about it in basketball. Is there anything from playing collegiate basketball that crosses over to cowboying now?
Oh man, a lot. I was actually talking with my wife about this a couple weeks ago. I think it's hard I think it's easier to learn ranching compared to cowboying.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
when I think of cowboying, I think of riding young horses. I think going to catch a yearling. All the stuff that goes with the skill involved with being a cowboy. You can raise cattle and not do that in certain parts of the world.
I feel like ranching, you're learning the business.
Yes. Yeah.
Cowboying is learning the skill.
Exactly. And I think, I'm coming off of a college career where I was at the best shape that I'll ever be in. Mm-hmm. Even when you just think about the balance it takes to be horseback or standing up to rope something. So, like now, even though it's only been 8 years, I feel like I would have had a much more difficult time learning that stuff. I could also work all day and never get tired. And now it's a little, I work, like, good grief.
When your son calls at 9:30, well, it's about time for my nap.
This lunch is getting heavy and I need to rest for an hour or two, but no, it's cowboying is much more. There are some guys that I've been around. Well, the best hands that I've been around are pretty good athletes,
Makes sense.
but
Is that why I come to mind?
100%. Yeah. No, but too, I think there's a kind of a mental toughness aspect to that where most days you're going to be uncomfortable at some point, whether it's hot or you're hurting, your back's hurting, or it's cold, or, even just uncomfortable like this wind.
Yeah.
You kind of, in basketball, you're uncomfortable. At playing at that level, you're uncomfortable most every day, just whether it's a lift or it's, conditioning or even just, you got to earn your scholarship every day because if they really wanted to, they could go find somebody to replace you like in a heartbeat. So, yeah, there's a lot of things. Those are the kind of what comes to mind. Also, getting your tail chewed out,
Learning to, like knowing how to.
Just learning to not let it, shut you down, I guess. Because when I was playing, you get your tail chewed on, you got to go perform still. Yeah. And same with cowboying, you're going to mess up and you're going to do dumb stuff, especially when you're learning. Mm-hmm. You're going to, and rightly so, you're going to get your tail chewed on. And what are you going to do? Just lock down and not, fill a hole or get the job done? It's just kind of, you see it with interns.
Yeah,
some of them are better at responding to a little bit stronger correction, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Constructive criticism.
Yeah, and that was good for me being around interns because I've only known being around other athletes where you say what, you say it like, hey, whatever it is, figure it out. And they either respond or they say no. And that's when you end up rolling around, Yeah. And so even though there's certain guys that were more stubborn or hard-headed, I was the same way. But you could say that stuff. And when you get to a ranch and there's like interns and around other people, not many people are exposed to that. Like, hey, even if it's just hey, get it in gear. Mm-hmm. Come on, we got stuff to do.
That happens to me every day.
Some people, I need it all the time. But some people, it's like, oh, yeah, like they snap out of it and they go, and others are like
Tuck their tail a little bit.
Yeah, I did something wrong. It's like,
yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just easy fix, just go do it.
Yeah, what's the best way to, basketball teaching you to take criticism. How do you take criticism?
Well, I think it's...
First of all, I got to fix your mic, dude.
Is it not good?
He's just like,
There's that other
what
joint.
I do wrong?
Yeah,
There's that other joint I didn't
tail.
see.
Yeah, he just talked.
First of all, get that mic right.
What was the question? What was the question? No, I think you're talking like how to learn to respond to it. Is that what it is?
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously different ways to respond to criticism, but how do you?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it like I was as hard on myself as anybody else was or is. That's probably one of my greatest strengths, but it is also one of my greatest weaknesses because if somebody talked to me the way I talk to myself, I would not be okay with it.
No.
I'd be thinking like what I was wanting to do to Dale when he was chewing me out to get the gate.
Yeah.
But when I don't know, that's a good question. Some of it just comes with seeing that most people are not getting onto you because they just like to get onto you. There are a few, but most places they're getting onto you because I'll put it this way. Anytime I've gotten pulled over by a cop, I've deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I've gotten my tail chewed out, 99% of the time I've deserved it.
Mm.
And so I think knowing that, but also being coachable and knowing, like if they weren't getting on to me, then I'm either doing it right or they just have given up on me, and odds are I'm just starting out. I'm probably not doing it right.
Yeah.
And that just, I think that comes with little maturity, but sometimes it's not easy, especially when you want to be doing a good job and especially when you're starting out and you're trying everything you can. A lot of times it's just a focus deal, If people let you on the ranch and they know how little of experience you have, they understand. I mean,
do you look back at the guys that you first started working for? Have you ever looked back on that?
Oh yeah, all the time. I look back and think, man, that guy was good.
To you?
Well, just like a good hand.
Gotcha.
There's a couple guys like that, and then there's I see why he did that, or I deserve to get my tail chewed on a little bit for whatever it was, but then I also thought about it from a different perspective when I got to the RAB, because now we have interns.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too long ago that I was the guy that was just trying to get any experience I can. And so there's a lot of things that I think like I would remember trying to learn, and to guys that have been doing it for a while, they don't even think it's just second nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing I really enjoyed about being at the RAB was with those interns that didn't have much experience. I feel like there were some things that I could help them with that people that grew up in it wouldn't.
Why are you looking at me?
Because.
Yeah, so your lack of what's the right way to put this? Like your lack of experience coming to the ranch gave you the better opportunity to teach.
I feel like it did.
Helped your teaching.
Other past interns might think different, but
who were some of your favorite interns?
Oh,
Willie Wordle.
Yeah, a Willie. Man, Clay Mertink.
Clay.
He's a good one. Man, I talked to Weston a lot.
I was about to say Weston was probably, I thought, one of your other good ones.
I mean,
Good groups.
there's, even the Graces, they were, Jackie Johnson, they, like, the common theme between all of my favorite interns, and I liked them all, but those in particular, they always had a good attitude.
Yeah.
Always.
Makes a big difference out here, doesn't it?
Man, that, like, when you're getting close to sale time and you've got bulls on different rations and you're under a little pressure, it's just the nature of the job.
Yeah.
You've got cooperators you want to perform well for. You want to do your job well. And when you throw interns into the mix, getting them lined out and while still doing your job, it can be stressful at times. But when an intern would show up with a good attitude consistently, man, that was like, I feel like it made our job so much easier. And to me, it seemed like with guys especially, some of them would kind of be the been there, done that guy. And to me, that made me not want to help.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people say they want to learn, but they're not willing to shut their mouth and listen.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of people, and there's even fewer that will shut their mouth, listen, and then actually try what you're telling them to do. But the interns that showed up with a good attitude consistently, and they're not going to complain about the job you give them, they seem to take criticism better, and they were more coachable, and it made me want to help them more.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
It's crazy to think it wasn't too long ago that I still am in a lot of ways, but it's pretty cool. I don't know. The intern program is such a cool part of the RAB. I think a lot of
pretty good breath of fresh air when
new
interns come in and
and
same old jokes work and
you don't have to get new material. Cause
just use the same jokes.
New material and interns every 6 months or whatever it is, but no, a lot of these kids coming in don't have a ton of experience, so there's usually a lot of good stories that come with that.
There is. You're right.
And that's one thing about starting out. You have to be okay with getting laughed at, because
you have to.
It's going to happen. And if you, as Cowboys especially,
because heckling, it feels like in our industry that heckling is the love language.
Absolutely, it is. And
I never get heckled.
Whoops.
Well, let me just.
Are we good on the camera, Willie?
This real quick.
Yeah, but I do believe that heckling is the Cowboys' love language.
Yeah, if you're laughing, I don't know. But that goes with the good attitude. If you can joke around and make jokes on your own expense, but then give it right back, and that's what Cowboys enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of that trash talking each other. But yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. But
how do you handle, with the same token, advice from someone that you would not want to imply? Because there's a lot of people. Everyone has advice. Everyone has an opinion.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
Well, I think any advice, especially when you're starting out and you're young, if it's job related, like, hey, try it this way or do it this way.
There's no harm in trying.
Try it, and it's not going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
Just try it. And I think who's a good hand and who's not even somebody that's never done it, if they see a really good hand, they know. And so if that guy's telling you, if it's somebody you respect and would like to, whether it's riding or roping or how they handle cattle or, how they handle stuff in the chute, whatever it is, listen to them because they know a lot more than you do. But if it, that's kind of a hard, like, for sure answer.
Yeah.
But
I was just curious.
Good question, though. There's a lot of advice that
there's some terrible advice.
there's a lot of advice that people are willing to give that you do not need.
Want to take.
Yeah, how important is it to find that good coach?
Yeah, I guess that's more along of what I was saying is how important it is to find someone that's going to be a good coach.
Yeah, and I think
recognizing that.
One thing that I look back on that I'm really grateful that I did was the TCU Ranch Management Program.
Yeah.
And,
Me too.
Now I wish I could go back with the experience that I have now, because I would have retained so much more of that knowledge. I would have been able to apply it so much easier. But for me, that program, I didn't use that program thinking I was going to go run the sixes. I used that knowing, okay, they've got an incredible alumni network. And if I can get in that program and I can do a good job and I work my tail off, somebody will recommend me for a job and I knew those, and really from you, just hearing you talk about, because you were there the year before I was, but I knew if I worked my tail off, the professors would place me somewhere that they knew would fit me, and vice versa, me fit the ranch that I was going to. And so that was big. That was huge, because and
like if they hadn't listened to the second episode of Registered Ranching with you, knowing the whole story, you were mowing lawns and playing basketball in your senior year, and you were like, "Hey, I want a Cowboy."
Yeah.
Obviously, there were some tugs and pulls maybe towards the ag sector.
Yeah, there was a family friend, awesome man by the name of Peter Dahlstrom, that he was the superintendent of I went to Lubbock Christian High School, or Lubbock Christian Schools when I was little. And he's kind of got a little bit of a cowboy background, but every Friday he had this big bay mare named Fancy, and he would do the crosswalk horseback. And so I'd be in pre-K and looking up at that horse while he got his hat on, he's got his wool vest on, and I just thought, man, that's cool, And then he asked me to help him go help an older guy one time, and there's a lot of things like that, but the best move I think that I ever did career-wise was the TCU.
Mm-hmm.
Because
TCU Ranch Management Program.
Yeah, there's a lot of people doing things good in ranching specifically, but there are a few people doing it great. And the folks that go through TCU, the Ranch Management Program, they look at things in a little bit more progressive, not so much of this is how Grandpappy did it, and by God, this is how we're going to do it, because this is the same ranch and we're not changing. Same cows. And that's a hard way to keep a ranch. That's a hard way to earn a living, but
I find that statement so interesting. I heard somebody say it that like if we did do it like our grandparents did, that would mean being progressive and doing everything we can to keep it, because that's what they did. They were probably using the newest tractor.
Oh yeah.
They were using the newest breed of cattle that the customer wanted. That's where a lot of Herefords came around.
Yeah.
They were selling more than just cattle probably.
Yeah.
And then we turn around and we we don't like if we keep our grandparents' mindset, I think is the way to do what our grandparents did.
Well, at some point, somebody had to make a decision. Instead of driving these cattle all the way to Fort Worth or Kansas or whatever, we could put them on a train.
Yeah.
And at the time, that was probably like, you're going to put them on a train?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, well, they got 4 legs. You know, they can walk there. And that might, it's a whole lot easier to stick them on a train than it is to drive them, obviously. That may be a little bit of an extreme, but I think about, and it's a little different for me because, you know, you have to think about that a lot because your ranch has been in your family for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, for me, that's not what it looks like. But I do think, like, if some of these folks, the people who founded the ranch, if they were to see now, hey, they're doing it the same way, but also seeing they're leaving a lot of money on the table, they'd be thinking, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You idiots. You know? And there is something to be said about tradition.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
I love tradition. I really do.
You know, when it comes to the financial security and future of your ranch and family, it's kind of like, man, I think a lot of times people focus on tradition more than they do future.
Mm-hmm.
And they think, man, the cowboy times are disappearing. You know, and that's easy for me to say because I don't, you know, I don't have a family place, but it is a hot topic for sure.
Wait, do it again.
You can make up a story about the shotgun if you want.
So now we're going to go into, I love that conversation. That's a good, I mean, that can go a lot of places, having that conversation. But I want to go into one of my favorite segments. This segment brought to you by Bedrock Truck Beds, the toughest truck beds out there, most durable. The ones we use at the R.A. Brown Ranch.
Pretty good.
It's because I like them.
I drove one with it, liked it, enjoyed it.
Yep, Bedrock.
Would
Bedrock's
recommend.
Good. Recommend. Yep. 10 out of 10. Yeah, get you a Bedrock truck bed because they're the toughest ones out there. So this segment brought to you by Bedrock. What's the toughest thing about ranching? Well, no. What's the toughest thing about cowboying? Would you consider you're cowboying right now or ranching?
You're
kind of doing
good
both.
Mix of both.
Yeah,
really.
You're kind of doing both.
Yeah.
Let's just go there. The toughest part about your job right now.
Toughest part about my job.
And then I got another tough question after this.
So the folks that I work for, they did not grow up ranching.
Mm-hmm.
They made very, very successful car dealerships, and he loves cattle. He loves cowboys. He loves ranches. Everything about it. But when you're doing as well as he did,
just as successful as he made himself, right?
You know, you're not really thinking about ranching, and he is a hard-working rascal. He's not the kind of guy that has some success and thinks, you know, I'm going to step back. He stays in the thick of it, and but the hardest part about my job, management-wise, and it's not his fault. He has, you know, he doesn't know, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not anything that's frustrating to me by any means, but there's certain management decisions that don't make sense to him, and trying to explain to him the reasoning.
Yeah.
That can be difficult because there is even just kind of almost like a language barrier, like the kind of cowboy terms or ranching terms. Somebody that didn't grow into it doesn't understand.
Yeah.
That, you know, but there's a lot of those things that need to be addressed, but it's just one step at a time. You know, whether it's rotational grazing, which that's a whole nother deal. That's hard to do on that ranch. Whether it's even just the amount of cows you need to keep, amount of heifers you need to keep, things like that, keeping dry cows, getting rid of dry cows. Those are things that can be difficult, but it's, a good thing is that job is not real intense. So I can address those things as they come up, and I can do it one at a time. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it makes sense. Makes sense.
I would, talking to Donald, it's a whole different conversation than talking to the owners that I work with. And,
Yeah.
Donald's already there. He's already analyzed it, like, from every angle, and we can talk, and we have a plan. It's totally different. I've got to explain every single thing and every reason why and break it apart and then show them why and put numbers to it and all that stuff.
Yeah, I bet that makes you think about it before you bring it up.
Yeah, and really, it's difficult, but I've kind of enjoyed it because I try to, if I need to get something done, whether it's a big purchase or it's a kind of a management type plan, I try to come up with 4 or 5 different options, and I can say, hey, I think these are all great options, and these are all options that I would feel comfortable with moving forward, and I just let him pick. That way, that works with a budget-wise, but it also kind of gives me a little confidence that I'm like, from there I can say, well, I'm doing what he's wanting.
Yeah, and he gets to make the decision.
Yeah, he's making the decision. So if I'm going to spend $60,000 worth to build, 5 miles, 10 or 6 miles of fence, I don't have to lay asleep at night thinking, boy, I hope that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
Did he want cedar stays or is he okay with wire stays? Because those big decisions, it just helps you sleep. It's not my money.
Yeah, that's weird.
And it is kind of nerve-wracking signing a check like that when it's not your money. And hoping he understands exactly what he's getting,
Right. And what good answer. What is the second question? I normally don't do 2 Bedrock Tough questions.
Come
You're
on.
special.
Yeah, you're special. What was the toughest thing about getting into the cowboy world? Everybody says I can't get in. They're gatekeeping me. How do I get in? Just give me a chance. I think you can answer it.
This is separate. I've heard the gatekeeping thing. I didn't know what that meant for a long time. I had to look it up on Urban Dictionary, what gatekeeping meant. But if you really wanted to do it, you'd find a way. And if you think somebody's gatekeeping, every ranch I've been on would love to have somebody that showed up on time and went to work. Doesn't matter how skilled they were. If they showed up on time and went to work, there was a place for them, I
also feel like if they're gatekeeping, then that job probably wasn't for you anyway.
Yeah.
Because, if you haven't had any experience and you show up to the 6s, hey, I want a cowboy.
Yeah.
Probably not the job for you.
Good for you. Let us know when you find a job.
Yeah.
But from a hiring perspective, if I need to hire somebody and I need help, that's why people hire for positions, is because they need to fill a hole. Why would you hire somebody with no experience? You're still going to have a hole. You didn't fill a hole.
Yeah.
So you have to.
So now you got to train.
You got to train them.
Still do the job.
You have to, and really, if they're cowboying, and even just ranching, just learning how to move something. I mean, how many times have we been where we loading bulls, and after the sale, and you got to mix those bulls. Those bulls go to fighting, and there's just an intern standing there.
Yeah.
They're not worried about you. They will flat run over you and not have any clue you're there. Just things like that you don't really think about, but the person who's hiring is. Like, if I hire this person, are they going to get somebody else killed, or them or me, or that's a small part of it. But
It is dangerous, though.
you have to. I guess I always thought if I can show up on time and I can do what they're asking me, I felt like I could kind of get a job, not anywhere, but there'd be a job for me somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But the hardest thing about, what'd you ask the hardest thing about starting?
Yeah, hardest thing about getting into it.
About, did you say cowboying or ranching?
Either
Or
way,
both.
whatever way you want to go with it. Because I use the way that you went about it. I tell everybody who ever asks me, like, hey, I want to be a cowboy. What do I do? My answer is always what you did.
Yeah. I don't, like, just getting into it, I don't know that, I can't think of anything that was just really difficult.
That's what I was really wanting.
I mean,
I didn't know where you were going to go with it, but that was my thought.
I think, I mean, if you're trying to find something, we have the greatest thing to help you find something in the history of the world, and it's the internet.
Yeah.
You can find something with 3 words. And once you get an opportunity from there, all it is putting the time in and the work ethic. And I knew that. I learned that from basketball. I knew if you worked hard, your hard work always pays off. There's never been a time in my life when it hasn't. That doesn't mean I was always successful, but it, dang sure helped me get into what I'm doing now.
Yeah. So what did you do to get in? I know we talked about it in the first podcast, but
Yeah.
it's a good spot for it now too.
So
Because you got denied first
I did.
for
Yeah.
TCU.
So zero experience.
0.
I mean, I've played basketball, and that's what I'd always done.
And mowed lawns with your shirt off.
Mowed lawns with my shirt off because I was a physical specimen at the time.
That's right.
Which me and Boogs have some hilarious stories mowing yards, but I had no business really even being on a ranch. And people that, when they hear, not so much now, but when I first got into this world, I'm sure you were probably this way when I called you.
I
You were
was.
like, what?
You want to come to TCU?
What? Like,
I
I
did.
was buying
did.
Jordans, and I was wearing sweats every day and hoodies over my, like I was just hooping. People be
hooping, boy.
And so so anyways, I went to, and I got an animal science degree, and I thought, I've always enjoyed being outside, so I thought, that'd be kind of cool. I like hunt, I like be on ranches. So I thought, well, I'll just try that, see if there's a role I could fill somewhere. And then it came up where, okay, now I've got to support a family because I was married at the time.
Yep.
And then that's when I thought, well, what's the best way I could get into a reputable ranch? Well, then I remembered you at TCU, the Ranch Management Program. So I called you. I was like, do you have to be raised in it? And you're like, no, just need some experience. And so anyways, that couple weeks later, I went and interviewed and at TCU. It was on spring break. And I was in the interview. They said, what experience do you have? It is like trying to polish a turd on making the zero experience sound like really good.
It's working on rotational grazing with my lawnmower.
Basically, my experience, which is 0, was I have an animal science degree.
Yeah.
That's basically it. And so they said, you know what? We think you're definitely somebody we'd like to have in the future, but you just don't have enough experience. And I said, okay, what's the fastest way to get experience? And they said, go to a feed yard. you'll see a lot really fast. And I said, okay. So from the time I walked out of the ranch management building
That's my favorite part of your whole story.
to the time we got to the car in the parking garage, and we parked first floor. I mean, all the students are gone. Basically was probably a 50-yard walk.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the phone. I had looked up Lubbock Feeders on my phone, and I called them. And I remember talking on the phone as I was closing the door on the truck. And I said, hey, told them who I was. I said, I'm trying to get into the TCU program. I just need experience. So you don't have to pay me a dime. I'll work for free. Put me anywhere you want. I would prefer to be around cattle, but I'll do whatever. And I think they thought I was probably with PETA or something, trying to catch them doing, whatever. And I had to call back. Over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, I bet I called 2 or 3 times a week. And finally, the last conversation I had, I wish I remembered that guy's name. I don't even know if it's the same feedlot manager or not, but I called him. I said, what time do your Cowboys get there? And he said, about 5:30. I said, okay, I'll show up. And if you don't have a place for me, I'll just find somewhere. And he, well, no, you come to the office, 6 o'clock, we'll find some paperwork. And so it was kind of like a by any means necessary type deal. And, I was married, I was still going to school, so I couldn't leave.
Yep.
And I just thought, this is my best, my only option, unless I wanted to go drive an hour and a half north or whatever. But I think I was there for a month, maybe a month and a half. And I tell you, I have a big respect for guys that work in a feed yard.
Dang right.
Because I tell you, I got all I wanted out of that deal. But anyways, after that, I was there a month, whatever it was, I called back up to the TCU building, and I said, hey, this is Tyler Rogers. I came and interviewed, a month or so ago, and I was just curious, how many students do you have in your class? I said, we have, I think they take around 30.
Yeah.
That's about what was in my class. And they said, we have about 20. I said, so it's a pretty small class, right? Or I think they said 25. So it's a pretty small class. She said, yeah. And I said, well, could I talk to Mr. Farley? And she said, yeah. So she put him through whatever. And I said, hey, this is Tyler Rogers. I heard your class is small. Yeah, a little lighter, but, we don't have to take 30. And I said, well, I did what you said. I understand it's still not much, but I'm married. I played high level of basketball. I know how to work. I'm not a flight risk. I'm not going to be doing dumb stuff. So, I'd love an opportunity.
Uh-huh.
And basically, like, what do you have to lose? And he said, okay, well, I'll bring it up. We'll look at your resume. I'll kind of update it, and we'll talk about it. Well, then a couple weeks later, I got a envelope in the mail saying,
you in.
basically, see you in the fall.
You in.
And so we packed our stuff and we moved. And can y'all cut stuff out?
Yeah.
I'll tell it. I don't know if I want it. It's kind of cool, but I kind of feel bad even bringing it up. But
I'm going to clap real quick so I have it marked.
Okay. So, they give 2 full rides.
Yep.
And I got out of college. I was blessed to have a full ride, so I didn't know a dime. And
LCU.
Yeah, and I saw people that I went to school with that were just racking up student debt. And, we went to LCU, and it's
Expensive.
It's expensive, but there's places like at TCU,
Way more.
it was up there.
Yeah.
Way more, $50,000 a year,
Yeah.
$25 a semester.
Yeah.
And I was like, here I am, I have no debt. My wife had a volleyball scholarship. So we're newly married, we both have a degree, and both owe nothing. And I was thinking, do I want to go from that to now I owe $50,000. And I also knew doing what we do, you're not going to get rich.
Right.
You know, you can be comfortable if you're not keeping up with the Joneses, but I also didn't want to be $50,000 in debt. So I asked him, like, hey, how do you get this paid for? And one thing about the TCU Ranch Management Program, their alumni association really takes care of the ranch management students.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yep.
And I think the deal was you pay the first semester, and then most everybody gets some scholarship second semester.
That's what I remember.
What you remember? And every year they give out 2 full rides.
Yep. They pay you back for your first semester and then pay for your second.
Yeah. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, easy.
That's it.
I was like, I can outwork anybody. And so I told Mallory that, and I was like, I'm going to get that scholarship. There will not be anyone outwork me. And, you know, I think that's why I appreciate those interns that showed up with a good attitude, because I remember waking up at 4:45 every morning, taking a shower, getting to the building about 5:30 and studying, and then staying late. And, you know, my wife, that's hard on a wife. And, you know, she's still fresh off a brain bleed, living in a place she doesn't know. I mean, I put her through a lot, so it's a miracle she even stayed with me through that. But when I heard that, I was like, I can easily be one of the 2 hardest workers. And so, you know, it was kind of I've heard the term burn the boats, like give yourself no other option. So I was like, well, I'm either going to get this scholarship or I'm going to be $50,000 in debt, which I wouldn't have been because they would have paid for a lot of it. Yeah. But that's in my mind. That's what it was. And so I worked my tail off, and I ended up getting it. And that's when I learned. I got the full ride, and I remember thinking, here I was barely even getting, only reason I got in is because they were light.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a flight risk or whatever you want to call it. And here I am, like, I just, you know, I earned a full ride. So I learned then, man, all it takes is showing up and working your tail off. And, you know, from then, that's always seems to be a theme in my life, was just work your tail off, you know. And I know y'all understand that, your family's the same way. But yeah, so from there I was blessed enough to be able to, I went to New Mexico. They said, I think we graduated on May 5th, and my first day of work was May 9th. And like most kids, when they take their job. And another thing about that program is most everybody has a job before you graduate. You know, that doesn't mean you shouldn't not graduate, but there's still a lot to be done before you graduate. So that's one thing that I remember hearing.
That you can get a job. You go there, you can get a job.
You get a job.
Yeah.
You know, like if you do well and they see a work ethic, you're going to get a job. And so I went to New Mexico. Most kids are like, yeah, I'll take a month. I'll start and, you know, latter into June. And I was like, no, I'm going to work. I can't wait. I just spent
that hair on fire.
I just spent 2 months sitting in a classroom, and I'm ready to get after it.
2 months?
Semesters. Two semesters.
I was like, what?
Yeah, I worked so hard it only took me 2 months.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we go out to New Mexico. We work for the Marley family. Taylor Marley, he hired me. He was an awesome guy. I loved Taylor. But it was not a cowboying deal. A lot of cows, tons of cows. And it was Taylor, me, and then there were three Mexican guys that had worked for that family for a long time, and we rode four-wheelers everywhere. And we were in between Roswell and Capitan, so it was rocky. Some of it was really rough. Some of it was kind of that flat Roswell-looking country. But we used a calf table, and us 4 or 5, we branded every calf just us. Good?
Yeah, I was just saying 2 more minutes.
Oh,
Good on the camera.
okay. But we branded every single calf, just us 5, and wasn't cowboying, but I got my hands on a lot of beef, and I learned so much. And then from there, I guess you'd say it was not so much a cowboying gig, but I had a string of horses, and we gathered horseback, and it was a great transition. The guy that I worked with there, he was the camp man. He started all the colts, and he was good.
In South Texas?
And yeah, we worked for Power Ranches.
Yeah.
We were on the Thompson. It's in between Sonora and El Dorado. But that guy, he started all their colts, and he's good. And he's kind of the guy that he just goes and does it. And you're going to learn it not by asking questions, but by watching him. But golly, he's good. So I got a little bit of a kind of start in at least being around young horses. Mm-hmm. And he gave me, out of all the colts that year, he gave me the first pick. And, that's one thing looking back now. I'm like, Adam, why did you do that? Like, you should have been on that colt, because I got on. It was a pretty cute, slick
6-string?
bay filly. No.
Okay.
No. But she is from that ranch.
Okay.
Anyways, and it was a train wreck. I didn't. And
You just didn't know?
I had no idea. And I got to the point where when I'd get on her, I was like, man, I feel bad for this horse, because I know, this little filly doesn't have a clue what I'm asking her, because I don't even know what I'm trying to ask her to do. I mean, in my head, I want her to do this, but I don't know how to ask her.
Yeah.
And so it finally got to the point where he's like, why don't you just drop her off in my pens? And I said, well, I'd kind of like to keep trying. And he's just like, no.
No, just drop her
And
off.
looking back, I'm like, at the time I was like, dang, I wish I would have had some more time, but I mean, I just didn't. He should have said it long before.
Yeah.
Looking back now, and but from there, that was a good transition. From there, we went to Spike Box, and that was wild.
Seems like you learned, that's where you. What was your moment of I'm a cowboy? Was it before Spike Box?
No. It
was at the RAB. You and me.
Dang right. Pushing bulls in the chute.
Just measuring scrotal circumference.
Doing a whole round of fertility tests and not letting one bull get through the chute. That's when I knew I was top hand. No,
So what was the moment?
So from the Thompson, when we left from Spike, at the Thompson, I had my own string, and they were good, just kind of bomb-proof horses. They knew more about a cow, and they had seen more cows and crushed more rock than I had ever seen in my life. So I didn't have to do anything.
That was a good cowboy saying right there.
What?
They'd seen more cows and crushed more rock.
Well, I tell you, you've been around it, you learned from that stuff. No, but just because right there, I learned just because you're horseback and behind a cow does not make you a cowboy. Because I was around guys, and those cattle, they weren't running off. Those were some of them, as far as cowboys go, that crew, I don't know that I've ever been around a crew that knows how to handle cattle the way they do, because we had sheep too. And I'll tell you, when you go to gather, when you sort your lambs off your ewes, and you go to gather, when it's time to ship those lambs, it's like trying to gather a tin can with jackrabbit legs, and they just go everywhere. And you, like, those guys, it's amazing. It really teaches you how to approach a gather. And it's not just going out there and get around them, boys. It's a well thought out, we're going to go as fast as we can, but we're going to go as slow as we need to.
Mm-hmm.
And that just seeing how those guys worked, and that transitioned to seeing how they handle cattle. And I learned if you can gather sheep, you're learning something. You're doing something, because those guys, and there were goats, they were wild goats on that place. And that's kind of where I learned to rope a little bit. Because you'd miss lambs, and you'd have to go gather, bucks and stuff. And so that was awesome, because if you miss a dally or if you're tied off, you can't get in a big wreck, and if you miss a dally, you just hold on to the rope.
Yeah.
Because you
can pull the goat.
Sheep, or goat or whatever. And so, but they're hard to rope, because it's hard to line one out, especially a lamb, because they're running like back and forth and ducking and diving, and you're in the brush. And so I kind of learned how to swing a little bit. But at that point, I'd never roped anything of size, and I was riding broke bomb-proof horses that knew more than I did. So from there, I went to Spike Box. At Spike Box, you're not provided horses, so you don't have a string. And I was like, crap, I got to come up with something. And we were married. We didn't even have a 1-year-old at the time. Well, I guess he had just turned 1. But we were broke, and that the market was coming up at that time. Yeah. It wasn't near like what it is now, but I didn't know it at the time, but that ranch, they were going to give me a raise later on. And like they had, amongst themselves, the management, they had already kind of committed to that. I had no idea. And so I told them I was leaving, and David Neal, who was the manager at the time, I think, I'm not sure now. I think James is kind of taking over anyways, but he said, well, he said, I know that Spike Box place. He said they were wanting me to come interview years back. He said, so you're going to need some horses. I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, we're going to give you a raise. And he said, he is a man of principle. If he sells his calves at this price one day and it skyrockets the next day, he's going to sell them for what he sold them for. He's not going to ask for more, because that's what he committed to. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, we're going to give you a raise, and we still want to do that, so we'll just give you that raise in horse flesh, basically. And he said, this is what they'd be normally with your raise. This is what they'd be now. And so it made it to where I could actually afford. I mean, I was flipping every cushion over. I was looking under
quarters.
I was like it got to the point. I remember, and we were comfortable, but I couldn't spend money on horses, Mm-hmm. I remember looking everywhere we'd go. I was looking on the ground, looking for quarters or dimes. Like, I've got to scrounge something up so I can pay for this. And anyways, we got it done. And so I left there with 2 mares, a 2-year-old, that really had only been halter broke. She hadn't really ever been touched other than when she was a weanling. And then, and that was 6 strand.
Yeah. Okay.
One I had, when I came to y'all. But the other one was a 3-year-old that Adam, who was the camp man there, started. And she was cool. She didn't do anything real special, but she's red roan, pretty looking thing. And anyway, so then we go to Spike Box, and it is a whipping and spurring. I mean, there's some cowboys that go there, and they run wide open, both ranching and not. And man, they were good to be around. I learned so much, and I was nervous because, like, I showed up. My first day was fall works on the camp that I was going to run.
Woo.
And so there's all these, new faces, and I'm a nobody. I'm just the new guy. And they're the kind of guys that you see them and you know that they can tell you're not a hand. Like, you're not fooling them. And that's where I remember thinking, I just got to be okay with looking like an idiot because it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so right then I remember thinking, because that was hard for me because having a successful basketball career, I wasn't really used to being the guy that couldn't hang or that was having a hard time keeping up. And so now I'm in this spot where it's like, good grief, I don't want to be the guy that's not keeping up. So I'm also trying to do that on that 3-year-old. She was good, and the right guy would have had no problem. But she was green enough that, like, I probably shouldn't have been on her, Like, I don't think we didn't drag calves when we were down there in Sonora. We used a calf table. She'd been around a lot of cows. We didn't sort horseback, so she hadn't done a ton of that. But that was hard because I'm trying to learn, like, even just
on the job,
the cowboy stuff of don't ride in front of people. This is the order you go through the gate. This, just the cowboy etiquette things, but also like the kind of how you sort cattle in a pen and how that works. And I'm trying to do it on a young horse that's just as shocked that we're there as I am. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to pay attention, but I'm also trying to work on, like, get this horse. And anyways, but that was difficult. That, to answer your question about what's the hardest thing cowboying, that was probably it for me. Was I'm having to try to not only learn to do the job, like figuring out where to be in those more high intensity outfits, mm-hmm. As far as a little bit ranchier works, but I'm having to do it and, like, on a young horse that I don't have any business riding. And that was hard. That I look back and think, golly, how did they not just, they should have kicked me off, but they should have fired me the second I stepped on that ranch probably. But so I took those 2 mares. I started 6 strand.
Yep.
And that was the first horse that I did kind of everything. I didn't halter break her, but from then on,
you did all the training.
I did all of it. And I've, where we are now, I've had the opportunity to start some young horses, and being with y'all, the string I had was just, pretty jam up ranch horses where
and one of them just sold.
Ray just sold
for $30,000.
Yeah, awesome. And I tried to get him bought, knowing Lanham wouldn't want to, and I don't blame him one bit. I would have kept him too, but it wouldn't have been for what he sold for. I
Wouldn't have been for
guarantee you
30.
that. No, sir. Not because he wasn't worth it, but I wouldn't have been able to afford it. But when I was with y'all, I got to feel what a good horse felt like, how they move, just the demeanor they should have around a cow, because what I was riding at Spike Box was always scared because I was on it, and it wasn't the horse's fault. It was my fault. But now I kind of know what that feels like, so I can replicate a lot of it in a young horse. And I know how to be patient enough with one and step around one to where they're not just wound up all the time. But you asked what kind of made me feel like that first time. I was like, man,
I'm a cowboy.
I'm a cowboy. Like, I'm doing it, I had been at Spike Box for probably a year and a half, and I had gotten that 2-year-old going. And Denny Pounds, he's the foreman there still. He said, Spike Box, they also have a ranch in Amistad. And those guys on the yearling crew, they'd go up there to, ship yearlings and do all that stuff. And so I was kind of the guy that stayed back and took care of the whole ranch if something happened or whatever. And at Spike Box, I wasn't on the yearling crew. I had a cow camp, so that was my first kind of camp man gig. But we had shipped yearlings, and especially there, anytime you ship, there's some kind of bottom country and some old scalded hills, and a lot of those wheat pasture cattle, they've got a place to hide. If they don't want to come out, you're not going to find them. And so there's always a handful that you don't find. And then we'd get a helicopter, and the helicopter would spot them, kick them out of those bottoms, and then we'd catch them up top on wheat. And so I guess I've got two answers to that. I had that mare, and I hadn't caught anything, mainly because I wasn't really, you kind of scatter out, and when something comes up top, if you're closest, you go catch it. And so guys go off this way, and some guys go off this way, and I'm just kind of sitting here, thinking, well, there's nobody here. There might be something down there. Well, about that time, here comes that helicopter. He's up top circling, and he sees something. He goes and kicks some out to these guys, and then he comes by me. I'm thinking, oh, maybe he's got something. Well, then he goes by me and kicks something out to the other guys. I'm like, dang, I missed out. Well, then he goes up and circles, and he's circling above me, and then he just nosedives, like, straight down. And now I'm like, oh, yeah,
Here it is.
game time. Well, then he's hovering right above the mesquite trees, and so that's when there's something down there. So I kind of make a circle. I get down there, and a lot of times, like, well, this one, they got to the edge, and she wasn't coming out. And those were heifers at that time, I think. And so I get behind them, and this helicopter's right there, and like low enough to where I thought, I'm going to wait here until he gets a little higher, because I don't know that I want to be that close. Well, then he comes up a little bit, and I kick her out, and she gets out, she takes off. And so I'm behind her, I'm whipping and spurring, and I'm like giggling, because I felt like I was like under a helicopter in Nam or something, like, this is insane. And so I start swinging, and that heifer, the helicopter, like, started kind of turning that heifer back into me. And it was so cool. I can just still see that heifer's right there, and I'm swinging, I'm standing up, and the helicopter's like right in front of me, and I catch it, and I throw my slack, and right after that, I think it was Tyler Thompson came over and healed her, and we got her tied down, And I was like, man, that was like, cowboys do that stuff. You know, that was awesome. And so I was like, man, I'm like getting to where I can hang a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Well, then a couple weeks later, all those guys go to Amistad, and so it's me. And Denny calls me one morning, and he's like, hey, there's a Mexican steer at this tank. I saw him. Go catch him. And I was like, okay. So I load up the horse that I started and jump in the trailer, and I drive there. And I'm there, you know, wheat pasture, so I just kind of go where he told me he thought he saw it, and well, there he is. So I, you know, jump a horse out, leave the gate open, and I go catch him, load him, and it was like went pretty smooth. And I got in the truck, and I was like, dang, like he, you know, like that's stuff that he asked the guys that I know are cowboys
Dudes
to
to do.
And, you know, I wouldn't have got that opportunity if those guys were there. But I just was like, man, he asked me to do a cowboy job, and I did it on a horse that I started.
Yeah.
And it went good. And that felt pretty cool, you know, to have a – and really that was probably kind of the first success I felt with a young horse that, like, man, I taught her everything she knows, you know. Because the stuff I'd been on prior, there's no way I'd have helped them be able to do that.
Sure.
So that was cool. It wasn't all like that. I mean, I don't know how I didn't get killed. There were I'd broken ankle and.
All right, we had a quick camera problem. Got it fixed. Thanks for IT, Willie.
It's not much. I've failed
So that was your moment
twice
when you
now.
felt you knew you were a cowboy.
Well, I thought I'm
You're
on
making
the right
You're
track.
making it.
I still have yet to.
Dude, I remember them. I had one of those moments. Like I had them as a kid growing up, like going out with the Cowboys, and
Yeah.
man,
But looking back, you just felt like a big boy.
right.
You with the big boys.
Yeah, and then I remember coming back from TCU and Ty Fox. There was this yearling this weanling that had pink eye, and we were going to doctor her. And
I think I've heard this.
dude, he put a good loop over this heifer, and I was like, I got to heal. Like I haven't really healed very much, and so I get up there. I don't even remember who I was riding, but I get up there and throw one down 2 feet, dude. Catch my slack, pull it up, and Ty Fox yells, "Yeah, Tuck, yeah!"
Forgot about that dally though, didn't you?
And it just zips right out the end of my hand. And like in the moment of me pulling that rope tight, him yelling, "Yeah, Tuck!" Like that was one of my like. Dude,
I made it, baby.
I'm cowboying, and that was the fastest. One of the fastest moments from high to like complete embarrassment low.
Yeah. Like I'm a cowboy too. I am a child.
Yeah. And then I was like, dude, yeah, I don't know anything.
Oh man.
I still haven't had my I'm a cowboy moment. I
mean-
don't think it's happening anytime soon.
You
Gotta
still
get on that rope and dummy.
Well, when I remember the ranch rodeo in Throckmorton when I was helping Ty Fox.
Yeah.
We had one of them steers kept running through us in the return alley, and this is at the end of the deal. It's like everyone's getting away. We're trying to get everything to take those little deals off their heads or the numbers off of them, and this one keeps running through us. So finally, we turn it out in the arena, and Ty's like, "We're gonna rope it." So Ty heads it, and it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to try and heel." Like I'm gonna look. I go to swing, and I hit one of the overheads up on the gate and miss like worse than this. Other guy just steps in and gets it instantly, and I was like, I've got a long way to
Humbled.
go. I've always already humbled, like, and then it just went even further. It's like I'm not. I'm just a Yankee.
and cowboying will
Play dress up.
Humble you,
pretty
dude.
good at humbling you because everything's trying to do it to your
Yeah.
buddies, your horses,
Mm-hmm.
cows trying to do it more so than anything else. That's just
You ever been humbled? What any
stupid
wrecks
things.
humble you?
Well, I've done a lot of stupid. You want like wrecks or like stupid stuff? I've done?
Whatever you think fits.
Well, I can tell you some dumb stuff I've done that's just like embarrassing stuff that like a new guy would do.
Yeah.
I'll tell two of them. I'll make it quick. There's in the road from Sonora. I don't remember what that road is going east, or El Dorado going east. And then there's a cutoff that goes to the entrance of the ranch. I can't remember what that road is, but they just put a brand new like seal coat over it, black, and they repainted it yellow, lines and everything is beautiful looking. And that hadn't probably been done in no telling how long since they put it on the ground. But the day after they got done with that, and they worked on it a long time, I was hauling hay from the kind of the headquarters ranch. It was about an hour drive back to ours. I was hauling hay, and those hay bales were huge. And so it'd be like double stacked and, two rows all the way back to the end of the trailer. And you couldn't see, it was hanging off the side, and you couldn't see the tires. And so I'm just driving, I'm just jamming out. I got a load of hay. I'm just enjoying being in the AC.
Playing Big X Plug.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I make the turn, and I'm like, man, this road is nice. It is smooth, baby. So then I turn onto the ranch and, drive all the way through the ranch. It's probably 3 miles back in there to where I was dropping the hay off. And I get out of the truck. It just smells like burned rubber. What in the world? I just was like, that's weird. I'm not smart enough to think, she probably check it, check something.
Probably find it.
Well, then I unload the hay, and then I still don't notice it. But once I get done, unload the hay, I get off. I'm about to get in the truck to go get another load. I look, and there's a line following that road all the way to the tire that blew out. And so that wheel was just
digging in.
And I'm thinking, oh my gosh.
The brand new
I
road.
was like, when did that go? I didn't hear anything. Well, it's because I was jamming out to whatever song, and I couldn't see because the bales were over. I couldn't see in the mirror, so I was like, holy cow, how far? I was thinking I started a fire. There's the whole county's out fighting fires that I started from all this like sparks and everything. Well, I thought, well, surely it's just on the ranch. So I unhook and I start taking off. It went all the way down that newly paved road, and there's like a 1/4 inch thick cut all the way in there, and it leads right up to the ranch. So from then on,
everybody
I'm sure
knew.
it's still there, and you could it was deep enough where, the trailer, I was like, man, I'm a terrible driver.
See the weave?
Weaving back and forth. And so much so that if you drove over it, you could hear it on the wheel. And so that, everybody knows, it's like that. Yeah, that one idiot that worked at the Thompson 5 years ago
tore up this brand new road.
Yeah. So that was pretty embarrassing because the camp man, I'm sure, already thought I was an idiot. And then just dumb. But that was embarrassing. That same place, my hat blew off. I was riding this, went up to go do something, and my hat turned to face wind. I'm taking off, trying to catch up with everybody, and I'm trotting to everybody. So they're coming my way, and my hat blows off, and I thought, well, I'll just reach down there. Well, I was riding this real round back fat mare. And I just reached down there to grab it. Well, my saddle slides, and I fall off. And those guys, I'm like, well, maybe they didn't see because I put my hat on and jumped on. So I get back, and David Neal says, nobody said anything. And they were quiet for 3 minutes. It felt like hours. And David Neal, the foreman, he said, guess that hat was a little further down than you thought it was, wasn't it? I was like, oh, yeah.
So you saw that?
Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah, you didn't think you saw that. There's so many things. But that's what I was talking about. You have to, you got to get used to looking like an idiot, you know, and that still happens. But the more you do it, the less it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of stuff. But like horse wrecks, there was, seemed to mostly happen at Spike Box. I broke an ankle. I bought a mare for $800, and she was a raging idiot and ignorant of the thing as I've been on. And I got on her, and she would buck all the time. And it wasn't like hard, but it was enough to, like, she'd do it after you rode her for 5 miles, or she'd do it right then, or she might do it at the end when you go to step off. There's no like in between. Well, I got on her, and I was like, I'm just gonna let her ride her in the pen real quick, and then I'll go out. Well, she kind of pitched a fit, and then she ran in like head first, like hard into a welded wire panel gate, and my foot went in there, and she turned to the right. Well, she like hit hard enough, it like kind of, she was out of it. She's like stumbling, and my foot, like my leg is hung in there. My foot's in there. My left foot is in one of those squares, and she turns to the right and kind of stumbles again, and she leans up against that gate. So my foot is backwards, and then she takes off, and my foot's still stuck in there. And so I was thinking, I'm about to
lose a leg.
Like, I'm about to be in serious trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so she goes off to the right, and my foot just like pops like out of the gate.
Yep.
And so I ended up getting a road. I don't really know how. And I get off, I just jump over the fence, and I crawl under the loadout and then I looked at my foot, and it was just flopped over, and I like kind of blacked out. And I don't think I was out very long, because she was still kind of moving around, you know, like she had just pitched a fit. But so that was like a week before. I had been there a year at that point, and that was like a week before we worked my camp for fall works. And so I was like, I'm not missing, because when you have a camp at a place like that, when guys come to help you, you're not the boss, but you're the guy that kind of leads the drive and puts guys where you think they should be. And so I was kind of thinking, like, they're going to ask me to do that. And so I was like, I'm not missing my country. So I went to RC Boot, and I bought a new pair of boots that I could fit my foot in. And going through works, well, we'd eat breakfast every morning in at the cook shack, whatever you want to call it. And there's a bathroom in there, and I had to poop bad. And I'm hobbling around, like I can't hardly walk. I didn't break my leg, but I tore a bunch of ligaments, and so that's why my foot was flopping everywhere. Well, anyways, a couple weeks later, we're eating breakfast. I got to poop like now, and so
coffee fit.
Fast and hard, and so I go out to the other houses, because there's some bunk houses and stuff. I open the door, or tried to, is locked. What in the world? So I hobble, go try to open the other house, locked. And so I'm like, man, then I tried to poop. Like I was just gonna rough it and just let her rip. Well, I couldn't bend down because of my foot.
Because your ankle?
My ankle was broke.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was like, the only option, I either take a turd in my pants or I have to go in the cook shack. And so I go in the cook shack and blow it up. Like, I mean, next level turd comes out of me. And everybody, you have to walk by everybody so they see you. Well, when I come out, they have all cleared out.
They know.
And the cook, I can't remember her name, but she was standing in the doorway, And she just looked at me, and I was like, oh, crap. I have pissed off the cook.
Bad news.
Well, then I walk outside, and I also got the nickname Timmy there from Wakefield. Thankfully, it wasn't anything I did that was stupid, but I walk outside, and they're like, Timmy, what are you doing? I mean, all of them. There's like 15 guys out there just, you're an idiot, among some other colorful language. I was like, guys, I have a broken ankle. I can't squat. And so that's one of those cowboy etiquette.
In a bind.
Yeah, like that's one of those cowboy etiquette things. It's like,
don't do them.
do not poop in the cook shack.
Yeah. Which
is obvious, but it was either that or I pooped my pants, and
I think you took the right option.
It was terrible. That was stressful. I was still the new guy, and it was like, man. But I did apologize to the cook. I was like, I've got a broken ankle. I checked out, and she was okay. You know, she understood, but still. Yeah, it's a horse flip over on me and drug me and didn't get hurt. I had roped a yearling and tried to trip it, and it half hitched around my foot somehow.
Oh.
And that could have been bad. I don't know how I didn't get big time hurt there, but it was pretty ranchy there.
Spike box.
Pretty wild, yeah.
You did say you go wide open.
Wide open. This second or third day I was there, Heath Dunson, there's some cows in a trap. Somehow we got them in a trap, and we already knew they weren't going to be, you're not going to pin them. So the plan is jump a horse out, try to get them where you can line them out and catch them. And so me and Dunny end up chasing one, and I'm thinking I'm not going to be it's going to be a miracle if I catch. And she jumps the fence, and I kind of slow up, and Dunny comes up and sticks it on her. And so Dunny's tied off on one side of the fence with his horse's feet are in between the bottom strand, above the bottom strand. So there's below and above. And he jumps off, and he's pulling back on his horse, get
out of there.
If that horse goes through, he doesn't want to be the one. He don't want to be on it.
Yeah.
And so he's pulling back on the bit. And so now I'm like, how do I help? Because there's a cow on the other side of the fence.
With a horse in the fence.
With a horse in the fence. And I ended up, there was a gate not too far down, but thankfully Pat Butler and Gomer came up, and they, I wasn't any help. But I was thinking, I'm going to die here.
You're about to see it go down.
I was just thinking, this job is going to kill me. This is some wild stuff that goes on here. But no, it was those guys were good at just helping me learn.
Yeah.
They were really good at just, they might, if I was doing something in the Brandon pen, they'd say, hey, you idiot. A little more colorful than that. They'd be like, try it this way. And I'd do it, and I think once they figured out I would actually try it, they would kind of, they enjoyed it, I think. And I talk to those guys a lot still. But
Think that helped you in your teaching at RAB?
Oh, yeah.
Interns?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, what last time we talked, Willie was all about the story that you told.
Samuel.
Yeah. Was it Samuel?
I believe so.
Yeah, First Samuel.
No,
Willie was all about that story. You have any? You have another one you're liking?
Oh man. Yeah, I got a lot of them.
Willie knows I've been stuck in Proverbs.
Man, Proverbs. There's never a bad time to read Proverbs.
Tucker's got me hooked.
Proverbs fits every part of my life,
right?
In one way. or another. One thing, well, I've got two things. The second one's a question.
Okay.
It's a kind of a philosophical riddle,
Ooh.
if you will. And I've thought about it for years, and I still can't figure out an answer. But one thing that I've been thinking about a lot is Simon Peter. Jesus tells him, "Hey, you're going to deny me, before the rooster crows. You're 3 times."
3 times, yeah.
And he's like, "No, I'm not." And then not long after that, the guards show up and they come to take Jesus. Well, Peter lops a dude's ear off, like he's ready to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then, which, from a human perspective, he still didn't understand everything that had to take place. The Jews at the time, their idea of a savior was like a warrior, and so
The king who would come and fight and free him.
because they were persecuted forever, really. And so their idea of a savior was this guy, this mighty warrior that's going to come in and right all the wrong through violence and vengeance. And so he was told, the disciples were told, like, "Hey, I'm going to have to die." But that'd be hard for me to believe.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to win by letting them kill you? What is that? So, but the Roman soldiers come up to get Jesus, and he draws his sword, and he is ready to throw down. And Jesus puts the guy's ear back on, and then he goes from ready to fight to the death to denying Jesus. Mm. And I've been thinking, like, I've always thought, how can a guy make that total 180 decision in such a short amount of time? Well, and I kind of connect with Simon Peter a lot. But when the thing that I can come up with, and y'all kind of tell me what you think about this, because it's not really it's just kind of picking apart the story. But when I am with Christ, I'm connected with Christ and I'm living for Christ, I'm pretty ready to, when he's with me, I'm pretty ready to draw the sword and take on whatever.
Like walking into the bar with the biggest guy.
Yeah, like I'm ready to fight.
Yeah.
But then the second I remove myself, because Jesus was with Peter then. Well, then a few hours later, he finds himself without Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes from being this tough, bad-to-the-bone guy to a coward. And I just think, man, that's the difference between, I think, boldness in the faith in Christ. And even though the way he acted wasn't right, because, Jesus had to die. And so Jesus is kind of like, what are you doing? Like, this has to happen.
Do it.
From a human perspective, I look at it like, man, when I'm with Christ, I'm a whole lot bolder. And then the second I remove myself from him, boy, I'm denying him till the rooster crows, whether it's 3 times or 300. So that I've been thinking about that a lot. And I think about Simon Peter a lot, and just trying to, Scripture was not written to us, but it was written for us. And so I've really tried lately to put myself in their position.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to relate it to what I've got going on now,
Gotcha.
I try to almost read it a little bit more like a history book, because and since I've done that, I feel like I have been able to see the things that Jesus did a little bit more clearly. So I don't know. That's kind of something just to.
I like that. Yeah, I've never thought about that situation.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a question.
Okay.
All right. So it was prophesied that Jesus would be betrayed. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Judas, we know, he betrayed Jesus.
Yep.
For a very small
30
amount of money.
Was it 30 silver pieces
30
of silver?
euros or whatever they had back then. But so here's my question. I'm trying to figure out how to.
I thought you were
phrase
about
it.
to say, like, how many pieces of silver
Yeah.
would you take?
Yeah. How many would it take for you? No. So Jesus died not for the perfect, obviously. Okay. So here's my question. Was Judas saved? Did he go to heaven? And here, my first initial thought is absolutely not. He betrayed the Savior of the entire universe.
Mm.
But then I think it was prophesied. So he technically did the Lord's will, because Jesus, his whole purpose was to suffer on our behalf and defeat death. You know, and then you get into free will and all that stuff. But
You know what? I mean, I don't think there's anything that takes us away from Jesus. If we are saved and in the blood, and that may have been Judas's time away from Christ.
Yeah.
yeah. And, you know,
where he became that coward.
Yeah. And I think if I put myself in his shoes and I followed Jesus around and I saw all the things that he did, I'm probably thinking, yeah, this guy's the real deal. And so if I'm greedy, I'm probably thinking, you know, he's the Savior of the world. They didn't understand he had to die. Mm-hmm. So he's probably thinking, they're not going to kill him. They've already tried. So what's it?
I get the silver,
and he
survives.
He survives. You know, and there's no way to know that.
Yeah.
But if I put myself in his shoes and see it from, you know, I'm a human. And if you think you're above doing a certain thing, you're absolutely lying to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what Satan's plan is, to get you to think you're above one thing or another, because you're not. But I've been probably 6 years now. That question kind of came up, and I still have yet to. I go in circles.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, wherever it is on that circle right now, like, I believe Judas was saved to be around Jesus and to be a disciple. I feel like you were saved.
Mm-hmm. I think really the only person who knows that question is Judas and God.
Well,
like,
yeah.
where his heart was
I
at.
feel like whoever else is up there with him may know too. But
well, yeah, they would know. So there's actually a lot.
Simon
of people.
Peter probably knows.
There's a
right
lot
now.
of people that know. I think another thing that just made me think about is, like, then imagine, like, I don't want to say worse of a thing, but like in our shoes, like we live in a time where we're blessed to know the full purpose of God. Like, we've seen Christ's work here on earth already. Like, we know what the plan is. And we've seen miracles. Like, yes, we haven't personally met Jesus or seen his miracles with our own eyes, but think of all the miracles in your life and the miracles in your life, Tucker. I know tons of miracles that I've seen in my life, and still there's moments where I deny Christ and I sin and I make those mistakes, knowing so much more than what Judas and all of them knew at that time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And like how much, if anything, it should be easier for us not to deny Christ and side with him, because we know the entire plan and we know what, like, you know what I'm saying? And we still make those mistakes. So if anything, it should be harder for us to sin than what they were, because at that point, like, yeah, they saw all these crazy, like, everyone's always like, wow, they saw someone bring him back from the dead. They've seen all this, but I mean, like, you saw someone get back from the dead. I know Mallory.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, I know those things still happen, even though it's not Jesus himself physically doing it. We know God had a hand in that.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I still make sins every single day, and I still fail every single day being the man that God wants me to be, which for me gives me even less of an excuse to do that. So, like, I think looking at it through that perspective, it's like, dang, like, I'm going to sit here and judge Judas when really, like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
You know, it's just, I don't know.
I guess we'll figure out someday.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I just, I've been kind of in my Bible studies every morning. I've kind of gotten into like podcasts, like debates,
Mm-hmm.
you know, sitting in the feed truck, listening to people argue. But it's typically a Christian perspective debating an atheist. And so I got on atheist.com, and they have a list of biblical contradictions. And I thought, you know what? If I want to be able to defend my faith. So you can't use the Bible to defend your faith against an atheist.
Yeah.
Because they already don't believe it. It means nothing to them.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, well, if I can prove, you know, and this is all for me. This is not like, I'm not trying to prove to somebody else, but if I can prove that Scripture is believable, then that proves that what Jesus did is real. And so I thought, well, let me get on atheist.com, and they have biblical contradictions. And so I went through all those and did, you know, went through them, and it's the very last thing was talking about the end of the world. And when Jesus talks about the temple being destroyed before he dies, that's talking about exactly what that is. It's not talking about the end of the world, but there's some other verses they had that is talking about the end of the world, but it just made me think, like, I'm so fortunate to be able to have this Scripture like you're talking about, because there were people that saw him walking by and heard the story, and they didn't, you know, they have no reason to believe it. You think about the Jews, they had the Old Testament, and they knew the prophecies, and they still didn't even believe him, and he's standing right there in front of them. But then the Gentiles, they have no reason. They don't know those things. But going through that, it just made me really appreciate more the value of Scripture and just what you were saying, you know. And it, you know, if I'm being honest, it should make it a lot easier for me to every day wake up and be like, it is so easy to serve the Lord. But, it should be easy for me every single day to wake up and serve the Lord, you know, with Scripture and knowing what God has done in my life, you know, and then watching my wife from when she was in the thick of it to now. I mean, she was at one point a lifeless body, and now she's, you know, healthy, 2 kids. There's still some struggles there, but I mean, she wrote a book. She ran a half marathon. She's raising 2 babies. Homeschooling. And it should be so, that's a full-time job on its own. But it should be so easy for me to wake up and serve the Lord, but it's not. And that's the whole reason Jesus came to die for us and why he was resurrected 3 days later, because God knew we were going to mess it up. And that's the whole story of the Israelites. God laid it out there and made it perfect for them, and they kept screwing it up. And that's exactly what I do.
That's what all of us do.
Yeah, and so, you know, I used to make a big effort to not sin, but now it's like it's not an effort to not sin. It's just, man, I'm going to try to love Jesus today, as best as I know how, because I'm not gonna, whether it's sin or whatever that may be, treating people poorly, talking behind people's back, talking down on people, lust, drugs, whatever it is, you're not gonna do it on your own. You know? And so Jesus is constantly working on your heart, and if you let him, and that's never been a bad thing for me. So that's more than you asked for. But
Well, I thought of, I always remember that since I played college basketball too.
Stud, dude.
JV.
There's a couple college athletes in here.
Yeah. I remember that Coach Duncan always talked about Colossians 3:23. Wasn't that what it was?
Yep.
I feel like that fits pretty good with what we talked about today.
Oh, yeah.
You talking about working your tail off.
Yeah.
And I pulled it up so I wouldn't mess it up, but Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, work with it with all your heart as working for the Lord and not for man.
Yeah. You know, I think about being a camp man applies to that, because you're taking care of a camp, and even though I have no reason for the folks that I work for to come show up to the ranch and think you're not doing your job, it's still something I think about. And so I can relate that a little bit to that on a couple ways. One, I'm not working for them, you know. I'm drawing a paycheck from them, but if I'm working to please the Lord,
You can do your job good anyway.
it's gonna work itself out. But the other thing is, I don't always know when they're gonna show up to the ranch, and so I think in my life, my spiritually, personally, you better be ready for something to happen just out of the blue.
Because you never
They
know
might
when.
show up on a Tuesday. They might show up on the weekend. They might pop in. I might not see them for 2 months, and they show up on a Monday morning.
You never know when Jesus is going to show up.
Well, you never know when Jesus is going to show up, but you never know when your wife's going to have a brain bleed. And I think, golly, I need to be, battle tested.
Ready.
Because
You mean you need to have your horse prepared for the day of battle?
dang right, you do. I heard that somewhere.
Did you?
Yeah. Couldn't tell you where, but I heard it in a book one time.
Proverbs, old son.
Verb, son.
Jameis Winston.
The Bible's the only self-help book that I've ever gotten anything out of.
I read one called Stroke from Heaven or something.
What are you saying?
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
You didn't get anything out of that book?
Some cute blonde girl had a brain bleed or something. Smoke show.
You wrote part of it.
Well, I didn't write it.
You were a part of it.
I was interviewed. That actually is an excerpt or exert.
I don't know.
I
Excerpt?
think it's excerpt.
I have no
The
idea.
only person here without a college education.
Dang cow jobbers correcting us on a grammar. Shows you how smart I am.
Yeah.
But that was out of it was a men's devotional book. Kathy Crockett. You know Kathy Crockett? I think she's a professor at the business school at LCU.
I don't know.
Anyways, she interviewed some men and that had stories that she thought were worth sharing, and Mallory asked her if she could take that interview and put it in her book. And
Nice.
yeah, so I can't say I wrote it.
So if somebody wanted to check out that book,
Mallory's?
yeah, where would they find it?
It's called A Stroke of Heaven, Processing a Brain Bleed
You look like you're
and
having one
the
right
things that happened before and after. So,
Okay.
Even the title,
Stroke
she's
of Heaven.
smart. A Stroke of Heaven. You can find it
Barnes and Nobles, right?
Barnes & Noble, Amazon.
Barnes and Nobles. I didn't pronounce that right.
You can find it on the publisher's website, which is...
now. I think Amazon's good enough.
Yeah, Amazon. Or you can message Mallory on Instagram or
On the
Facebook,
socials.
and she'll just mail you one.
And now, you were always a part of my social media while you were here. Now you got your own, Timmy.
Yeah, Timmy. Yeah, that's been kind of a weird deal.
Ranch Living Timmy.
Yeah,
YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah, I'll post
A
stuff
little bit on the gram.
Instagram, but it's not really like,
YouTube's kind of your deal.
yeah, I guess.
You're not TikToking and beat popping.
No, man, that social media stuff is... I knew it was work, like, 'cause just being around you, but I don't know how you do more than one. It's crazy.
Willie.
Willie. Willie, you're not getting paid enough, whatever it is. No, but yeah, that's not really my personality. You know, I love stuff like this, like just,
Mm-hmm.
I like media.
I know someone looking to do a podcast needs a host, or a side host.
Why are you being so quiet over there?
I'm so tired. No, I know someone that's looking for Miles. Miles needs some help.
No, I don't want to do a podcast.
You just
I've
like
got the
being on.
YouTube, that's plenty.
I
But
like your YouTube videos. I think you're killing it.
yeah, thanks. It's that I just kind of thought there's not any good ways to share my faith on the ranch, and I'm not much of a preacher. So
You don't gotta be a preacher.
God has done a lot for me, and how he's just favored me a lot, and my wife and kids, and I just want to
share it?
I want to share what the Lord's done for me. So
That's a cool way to do it.
yeah, it's a very subpar cowboying, subpar editing, and
So you'll love it.
it ought to. I've really been surprised. People could be watching Netflix and movies, and
It is surprising, isn't it?
it's crazy. You get on that little app that shows you all your analytics, and you see how many hours combined people have watched, and it's just like, man, these people
it's
don't have a
wild.
life. You know, it's like,
Yeah, just insult your viewers.
y'all, there's much better things. No, like there's much better things to
Like listening to this podcast.
to watch.
I'm one of
you know,
those.
and
I'm one of those viewers, and you just insulted me.
Well, it's just like I'm trotting through a pasture and trying to record on a phone.
You
and
saw a big cat the one time that was up on the ridge, or was it
What?
a coyote? You were like,
Oh, that
was
coyote,
was that
yeah.
Rick?
Yeah, that was Rick.
And you were going through that stuff on the other side of the highway that you guys just got, and there was something up on the ridge. I thought that was cool.
I thought it was a
Coyote
cat
up on
for
a
a
ridge.
while.
With your dogs. Dog.
Yeah, he got. If any of y'all been watching,
Rest in peace, Doc.
R.I.P.
Dude, I loved him.
Well, I forgot that dog's name. Doc.
Yeah, Doc.
He would've been a good one.
Name.
I
I
literally
didn't have him long enough to learn it.
I said it like 10 seconds ago, right before you said that. I was like, I miss Doc. R.I.P.
Yeah, dude, you remember Ringo?
Yeah.
He gone.
R.I.P.
Wait, the one that was up there when I came and spent the
What you doing
weekend
to
with you?
I'll tell you what, it gets hot
Yeah.
where we're at, and those dogs.
That was the one that was up there that weekend I was up there, right? Was that Ringo?
Ringo's the big, kind of blue heeler looking
Yeah.
kind of.
I'm trying to think it was in the fall, I think I came up for a weekend.
Well, dude, I've lost enough dogs where I understand it's a dog. It's still sad, but
You have a pet cemetery now.
like the dogs that I have now serve a purpose.
They got a job.
It doesn't tear me up. They're out there so my kids don't get snake bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather the dog get snake bit than my kids. And so, but that Ringo dog we bought when we were in New Mexico, or we were given in New Mexico. So he'd been with us a while. My kids loved him, and they saw him get run over.
Oh,
And I was like,
that's tough.
I felt bad. I told my little boy, I said, well, buddy, I said, Ringo, he died. And I said, I'm sorry. I said, you okay? Yep. I'm good. I said, well, it's okay to cry. I said, if you get a scratch or you hurt yourself, your body, I said, be a man and be tough. But if your heart's hurting, I said, it's okay to cry. Oh,
he was holding it together for you, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. And I felt so bad. But, gosh, kids, man, they tug on your heart a little different.
They do, don't
But
they?
old Ringo, R.I.P. Doc,
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Ringo.
It was fun while it lasted.
Any new ones?
Yeah. What's his name?
Segment brought to you by Chewy.
He don't even remember their names anymore.
Primo.
Oh, no, Primo.
Yeah.
Primo was the one that he's still kicking.
Primo,
think
we
he was
had
there.
him a whole 3 days, and he got snake bit.
Never mind.
That-
Not
He's
He's
doing
Primo.
good, and if he gets
Oh,
bit
he's
again,
back.
he'll be all right.
Yeah, he got that
Yeah.
anti-venom now in him.
He's pretty cool. He's a great big old rascal.
I think I might just be. It has to be Primo. There's no other dog it would have been after
Little-
Doc.
He's a Great Pyrenees, but he's not white. He's tan. Dude, you put me on the spot.
I know.
That's hard. Thing that if I thought about it longer, I could probably come up with something better. But thing that comes to mind is a guy told me on my wedding night. He shook my hand. He said, "Don't ever stop making her laugh." And so, I think about that a lot. Making sure my wife is laughing, enjoying being married. That's probably not what you're looking for, but it's not very cowboy stuff. But
That was sweet.
keep her laughing.
Brownie points.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming on the pod, dude.
yeah. Second day.
Second day 2.0.
How'd it go? Went good. We want to do it again, boys.
I guess we'll have to see the analytics. See
Yeah.
how other many people don't have anything else to do to
Yeah,
listen.
they're not going to like that.
I mean, y'all could be watching Netflix or multi-million-dollar movies, but
Not Midway. Great story idea. I love the Battle of Midway, like the history behind it, but the acting's horrible.
yeah. I feel like
Talking
that's
to a history major over there.
one thing your dad
Wannabe.
would be like marketing-wise, be like, gosh, Tyler, you idiot.
We're going to get
Shoot
so many
yourself in the foot.
we get so many dislikes on this video now. It was going to go
Sorry.
from likes to
Sorry, Donald.
dislikes.
Hey, this is the longest podcast we've ever done, I think.
Oh, I hope
Are we
people
still
listen.
recording?
2.5 hours.
We're good. Couple
Thanks,
I
man.
always feel bad on podcasts because it's
Because you talk.
talking so much.
What else are you supposed to do? Stand here and look at each other?
Well, I just hadn't talked this much. Probably since I
You
was
just
at the
hadn't
RAB.
You just
A
hadn't
year
seen
ago.
anybody.
Golly, man.
That's crazy. We're gonna have to hook you up with some new merch.
Sorry
Hello.
about the camera delays for those of you watching it on YouTube.
Yeah, you're gonna get you a new cap
Am I?
if you're gonna wear it.
I'll wear it. You know, I got a present for y'all, too.
Turn him down. Turn him
I
down.
couldn't squeeze one
Turn
off.
him
It was
down.
crazy.
I
The
thought I
next,
had one
the next
chambered.
person
Turn the
that had
music
a podcast with us got pink eye.
Yeah. What is this microphone? Smell like a turd.
Oh god,
Any human use today, Cream?
that was a good one. I'm gonna have to turn y'all off. Just gonna have to turn you down. Go to registeredranching.com. Get you the hat that Tyler's gonna get.
Come on.
We'll have to check it out. Number 29 in the books.
2-9, baby.
29. Good for y'all.
Thanks, man.
Glad to be a part of it.
Purple Trails cross soon, Lord willing.
You
I
never
need a
know
bull,
when
you know,
Timmy's coming through.
That's true. You never know when Timmy's coming.
You know where I could get a bull?
I know a place.
Okay.
I'll hook you up. You've been listening to the Registered Ranching Podcast. Tucker Brown, Willie Wardle. Big thanks to Tyler Rogers. Check him out on YouTube. Ranch Living Timmy. But don't forget, folks, you know we love you. But y'all, ranch on.
Ranch on them. You need a bull
Stay classy. How did I mess that up? You stay classy.
and ranch on
And
them.
ranch on 'em. We love you. God bless.
Toast doesn't have a sale barn.
You need another bull?
I just try to throw some marketing. I mean, yeah, I could probably.
Are you opposed to putting bucking shoots on at the Rocky Back? You do it?
I don't even have an arena.
You said no, 100% no.
No. Having a